Peace, fam. Peace, fam. How you guys doing? Hey, how you guys doing? This is going to be a live stream. I'm going to bring on Alyssa Sokol. That's not even how you. It's all backwards and whatnot. I'm sorry about that. So I'm gonna add her in as soon as I figure out how to do that. Here we go.
Oh,
Hello,
here we
hello.
are. Hey,
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, living life, making it work, just drinking some water and some trace minerals and things like that.
There you go.
hmm Yes, ma'am. So I want to thank you for joining me today for this interview. I am very interested to hear your thoughts on some subjects,
Sure.
especially as a physicist, a quantum physicist. I have a degree in electrical engineering, so I have an idea of it. I've studied a little bit of physics. I know a little bit about quarks and antimatter and some things, but I don't know a whole lot. But before we get started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself so that the audience can know a little bit?
Yes, sure. Okay, so my name is Alyssa Sokol. I'm 28 years old. I'm from New York, and
Hey.
so I'm very interested in basically just I want to know how the entire universe works. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that maybe have that goal. But so I'm currently wrapping up my PhD in astrophysics. So I'm in my final year of my PhD at UMass Amherst. So I live in Massachusetts right now. And so for my dissertation, I'm studying the coevolution of galaxies and their supermassive black holes. So every galaxy has a supermassive black hole at its center. So my dissertation, I study how how the star formation activity in those galaxies co-evolves over basically since all of cosmic time with their supermassive black hole accretion. So that's what I'm doing for school, but essentially on the side, I'm very spiritual and I have a lot of interest in, I fundamentally believe that the true answers of how the universe works are not entirely only not focused on in academia, of course. A lot of professional astronomers, they laugh at astrology, all these other
Yeah.
things, but as we know, there's so many secrets. And I think one of the main things kind of you already were mentioning quantum physics. So I'm not that much of an expert in quantum physics, but it's really such a conundrum for how professional astronomers and the academic field and the top researchers and everything, we don't take quantum physics into account hardly for how we study how the universe evolves. There's so many unanswered questions. It is ridiculous. So in my perspective, I think that some astronomers are kind of more closed-minded than you would expect for people that inherently know that we don't know what 95% of the universe is made of. So essentially in the last few years, I've kind of been blending. I've been learning a lot more on the spiritual side and the quantum physics side and learning more about astrology and how all that works. And I've been figuring out my own ideas and kind of trying to, make my own spiritual connection and get my own downloads on kind of how these things all work together. And so I'm kind of just in the beginning of my journey with that. So I'm trying to wrap up the technical PhD side of things, but I'm having fun recently kind of really blending the ideas together. And I'm just very curious at this
hmm
point.
hmm
Hopefully
Um.
that's good enough
How?
intro.
Yeah. I thank you for that introduction. How long you been in school for this?
Yeah, so I am in my 7th year of my PhD, and then I started studying physics when I was in like 10th or 11th grade in high school. So it's been about like 10 years that I've been studying physics. And so I did my undergrad degree at Colgate University, which is in upstate New York, and I was a physics and astronomy major there. So I did all my physics courses there and everything. So that was four intense years of being a physics major in my undergrad. And then I took a gap year before grad school and kind of just, did
Yeah.
some more studying, applying, and everything. But so I've been studying physics for about 10 years. And yeah, the most intense of it, which is, my main interest lie in astrophysics and the universe. And actually in my studies, my field of study kept getting broader and broader and broader as I went on in grad school. I started studying things in the Milky Way, then I started studying nearby galaxies, and then all of a sudden I kind of just had this aha moment where I was like, no, I need to go big or go home. I was like, I need to be thinking about the entire universe. I was like, this is too small, too small, too small. So my main focus is I'm just always trying to think about the entire universe and
Mm-hmm.
how it all works.
Right. Have you do you guys talk about the idea of a multiverse in school?
Not really. There are some, so I would say that so in the field of astrophysics, there's obviously a bunch of subfields. I would say in like the subfield of cosmology, there are some people that kind of study more questions like that a little bit, but cosmology is a very theoretical science because we cannot, so I'm an observational astrophysicist, so I mainly work with data that we've taken from space telescopes and all these other things. Then there's theoretical astrophysics. So cosmology is more, definitely more of a theoretical study. So I think that like in that subfield, maybe people are kind of talking about that a little bit more, and there's some theory. So I'm not directly, and also in my department, where I'm getting my PhD is not as directly involved with that. But I would say that, people definitely think about it. And at big conferences, sometimes there's interesting talks about it. But it's definitely more of a theoretical study, cosmology. And there's
Yeah.
still so many unanswered questions. And we
Yeah.
don't even know if Big Bang Theory is right. So
Right. Right. No facts. So would you say that um shoot, I done forgot my question already. That's crazy. I hate when that happens. I'll move on to the next question. So dimensions. You
oh,
have a post about dimensions on your page. Um, okay, two questions. One, can you explain that post? Then two, do you think that different dimensions can be considered multiverses?
so my take, and I'm still developing like my takes on all these things. But I think that um, part of the what consists of the dark matter of the 95% of the universe consists of dark matter and dark energy, which is a giant question mark. Dark
Mm,
energy is kind of a way to explain the expansion of the universe. It's basically some negative pressure that's kind of um, causing the universe, to expand, but still keep its form and keep it together. So my take on dimensions and all of that stuff is that the dimensions higher than wherever we're existing, which is, the third, fourth, kind of moving into the fifth dimension, even though these are still all technically labels, I kind of think that maybe dark matter and dark energy, the reason that they haven't been detected, or they're kind of beyond our perception. So these kind of higher dimensions reside in these areas that are completely beyond our perception. It's no one's fault. It's just our level of consciousness that we're residing in.
mhm.
But I think, the first, second, and third dimension kind of have to do with just binary duality and just conscious observation. Like once conscious observation is made, you have some kind of interaction that can cause, some range of electromagnetic waves that are currently observable to us. But I think that, other, you could name it, you could maybe name it something else, but I think that as far as dark matter and dark energy, which is like, it's like we can detect it, but we can't, I think there's some correlation between these higher dimensions of consciousness that we simply just can't perceive of yet, and dark matter and dark energy, what we just call the rest of the universe that we really don't understand very well.
Hmm. Okay, fascinating. The way I like to think about third, fourth, and fifth dimensions, as well as other ones, I think that the dimension that we live in, like what we do on a day-to-day basis, is the third dimension, right? And then the fourth dimension is the dream state, right? When we're dreaming, could be because I know that the fourth dimension is like you're able to go back and forth between timelines, but you can't jump. It's like you have to go back in time and go forward in time and go back in time and go forward in time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the fifth dimension would be bringing the dream world and this world together. If that makes sense. That's how I think about it. What do you think about that uh, thought process? Like, do you how do you
Yeah,
feel about that?
I think, you know, a lot of people have so many curiosities about the dream world or the astral realm. Like, I think in some ways, like the dream world almost encompasses everything because, you know, you can access, you know, you can get messages from your deceased loved ones or whatever through the dream world. You can get visitations in your dream. So I think that's definitely still kind of a mystery, like where, you know, in what dimension, where does your dream dimension like reside? I think there's some a weird, like, you know, intersection point where it kind of everything is able to kind of like pass through there a little bit.
Mm.
So I'm not entirely sure. I definitely you know, I think that at least, like, you know, with the fifth dimension and on our relation to it right now kind of has to do with just, you know, your state of mind and your vibration and the
Mhm.
the level of consciousness that you can, you know, vibrate at.
That makes sense. That makes sense too. I love that that thought process. My my grandmother passed away the other day, and the day before, no, the night before she passed away, um, I was up watching Phil Valentine. I don't know if you know who that is, but I was watching Phil Valentine on YouTube talk about metaphysics and the Bible and just
Hmm.
breaking stuff down. And I felt like there was something over me, like something in the room. It was weird. And
Yeah.
then I heard someone say John. That's not my name, but that's the name that my grandma would call me.
Oh,
And I was like, that was weird.
yeah.
And then the next morning I found out that she passed away. So it's like
Wow.
I feel like that there's a way to to like, oh, I don't broke my pencil. I feel like there's a way to combine or travel between or communicate with other dimensions
Yeah.
that we can't see. Like, and to be honest, I think also other dimensions could just be considered electromagnetic frequencies
Yeah.
at different vibrations. You know what I mean?
I agree.
It's very interesting. It's a
I agree.
very interesting concept. You know. But yeah. I saw you had a post about aliens.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. So, what do you take about aliens? No, wait. Before you talk about the take, I want to say, the other day, not just the other day. This happened several times. I would just be looking in the sky, and I'll see something go from all the way from the one side of the horizon to the other side, and just stop. I just be like, there's no way that a plane can do
Yeah.
that. It
Well,
would just be
that
sitting
means
there.
you might have
You know
had
what
a
I'm saying?
sighting. You know, I actually still have never had a UFO sighting myself. But so that post was specifically was about, which I think this is so fascinating, kind of the intersection between quantum physics and just what we see with our eyes. And so honestly, a lot of this stuff, like it's been kind of cool to piece together over the last year or so information that I learned from obviously following other channelers on YouTube and Instagram, and, you know, following other people and picking up pieces over the years, and also my own knowledge of, you know, I've taken quantum physics classes and everything, so I do have a little bit of a baseline knowledge of quantum physics. um, but it's been really interesting to kind of combine all of that information. And so that post specifically, and I think what really why I love talking about quantum physics and how it relates to what we experience in everyday life is that our at the base it has to do with like wave particle duality. So every like we live in technically like a holographic projection. Like we experience it
Right.
solid, but nothing's really solid, and so we
Right.
actually live in a quantum universe, meaning your reality is only as rigid as you observe it to be. So based on quantum physics, and I've kind of experienced like had a lot of people I know too have kind of had uh you know you only fully understand it like once you experience it yourself. You're like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
um so it's like once you kind of relax your reality and kind of invite in the possibility of experiencing something else, you loosen, you in terms of quantum physics, you have this like wave function, which is essentially defines your probability. It's a probability distribution function. And so if you have the very rigid expectations of some reality, it has to fall, within there. But if you loosen up your expectations of your reality, all of a sudden you're inviting in other experiences. And so that post specifically was about UFOs and how I've heard. So I still haven't experienced one myself, but I've seen, many other channelers and stuff on YouTube talk about UFOs, and then they'll say, they'll mention these experiences, and people, the day after watching their video, as soon as they learn, they like hear more about how it's possible, as soon as that possibility is entered into your consciousness, then it unlocks some rigidness that was there, and it opens a little door, and all of a sudden there's an opportunity, and a lot of people, a UFO experience will fly right, literally
Mm-hmm.
fly right in there. So I haven't experienced it myself, but I trust that I'll see one when I'm ready.
Yeah.
But I've seen, I've read so many accounts of this happening, and the same thing kind of goes for glitches in the Matrix, which I could talk about after if you want.
Yeah.
But so that's what I meant with UFOs. It just this and that's why I like kind of talking about it in that sense, because not a lot of people would think about it that way. Like, oh, as soon as you think it's possible, it can happen, and there's an explanation for that, according to quantum physics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think that that's so interesting.
Yeah. What is the name for that explanation again in quantum physics? Do you know off the top of your head?
I mean, well, I'm not sure. Oh, like I guess I would kind of refer to it. I don't know. There's not necessarily a specific name, but I
I'm
would say
following.
it as like, you're readjusting how your observation creates your observation of your reality creates the rigidness of it.
I'm following.
And
I'm
that's why
following.
that's why you could apply it to law of attraction. You could apply it to many other things. Like as soon as you let go of your expectations, all of a sudden you invite in other possibilities, and that can be applied to many things.
Right. That's wonderful. Um, 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 I'm trying to think of a pertinent question to ask, because I do have a lot of questions, but I'm trying to think of one. It's do do you have any books that you would recommend the audience to read on this type of subject?
Not really, no. I'm not much of a reader myself. At this point I have enough going on with school and all these other papers to read. So I don't really have any good book recommendations,
Yeah, because there's a
personally.
lot of schoolwork. Yeah, no, I'm following.
Yeah.
Good. So, do you do astrology or astronomy?
Astronomy.
Astronomy. Okay, so astronomy is correct me if I'm wrong. Is the science is like studying how planets move and like the chemical compositions of the
Hmm.
planets and all that stuff.
Right, exactly. So it's like astronomy, astrophysics. What the way that I say it is like once you get to a certain level, astronomy and astrophysics, they're all pretty much intertwined, because if you're studying it, um, everything in the sky in the universe moves according to some laws of physics. So astrophysics is essentially, you know, there's a lot of different sectors within it. There's like some parts of it get a little bit more physical, but like for example, like astrophysical dynamics. So you know, there's spiral galaxies. So it's like, how do the spiral arms of galaxies form? The Milky Way is a barred spiral, so the Milky Way has a bar in the center and then some spiral arms. So it's like, what are the different physical conditions that cause a galaxy to form and become a barred spiral? Versus a regular spiral or an elliptical galaxy, and also a lot of topics of studies in astrophysics have to do with like star formation and you know, rates of star formation and how galaxies kind of form their stars. And then also, you know, the biggest mystery would be the supermassive black holes, which
Hmm.
is where I kind of got into a few years ago.
Yeah.
Started my
Yeah.
dissertation. I was like, I'm jumping on that bandwagon because
Hmm.
that's most interesting to
All
me.
right. Have you ever thought about looking up or studying astrology?
So I've gotten into astrology over the years, and so I've always been a believer in astrology. And what I would say is, and so I'm actually I'm looking forward to learning more about it. And so this post that I had made last week, I was so like excited to see, got a lot of traction because it was about quantum physics, astrology, and the circle. And it was kind of a lot of my own. It was a lot of my own ideas that I had been, so I guess kind of coming from downloads or a lot of things that have just came to me over the last few months. But these were recurring thoughts, and so it's you know, starting with the baseline of, you know, since I'm spiritually attuned and I follow a lot of these. I've gotten into a lot more into astrology lately, and I really believe that there is something to it. I don't fully understand all the intricate details of how it works, but you know, it was kind of combining that fundamental information with or what I would say to people in the last few years if if I talk about this, or I basically tell people like, astrology is real. Like, I don't know how to tell you that. And they think that, you know, me as an astronomer in school would believe that astrology is not real, because most of us do not. And I'm not saying that every single person born in the same month has all of the same qualities, and that every, you know, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's something to the relative motions of the planets and the stars and the consciousness that we experience on Earth. There's something to it that cannot be denied, and so that's really kind of what I'm trying to explore myself. And that recent post that I had was kind of born out of this idea that, like, okay, so there's some significance to, you know, and what a lot of professional or academic astronomers use to kind of debunk or laugh at astrology, you know, is all about the idea of how constellations, you know, are just a projection. They're a projection effect. We just have all
Well,
the
well, which is
stuff.
a weird, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that's weird because even if it's a projection, it still holds a certain amount of energy
Exactly. And
and it still rotates.
they
But
don't
but 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 that's the thing. I will feel like that, like they would know that. Like I just feel like you can have an understanding that the planets have energies, like a solar flare or a solar prominence. It's like it's energies. I don't. It's just that's weird to me. Like
yeah,
how can you be a scientist and not get that everything is a vibration or everything has energy? That's just weird to me.
I know. The missing link is, you know, is the impact of your personal conscious, like the conscious human here, which I think there also has a lot more to do with like our chakra system. You know, there's still so much more that could be explained scientifically with that, like our chakra system, our toroidal field, like our heart as the 0 point of our magnetic field. And also another thing that really got me a lot more interested in astrology and kind of all of these things recently was human design. Are you familiar with human design?
Human design. Can you explain a little more what that is?
So it's kind of it's similar to astrology in the sense that it has to do, it's a channeled it was like it's like a channeled form of kind of assigning different personalities, but it has to do with this or, you know, different aspects of, you know, of your being, and the way that you carry out your life path, and also
Is it like a new thing that they do where it's like a triangle? It has like it has a
it gets into the chakra system a little bit too, but it has to do with astrology. It's very linked to astrology because it has to do with your birth chart.
I
As
think I've seen that.
Yeah,
I think
and
I've seen
so
that.
it's like astrology in a different way that's also a little bit more detailed, or detailed in a different way, because at the same
Yeah.
time I'm not I haven't like really delved into the details of astrology. Um, but I found it so interesting, and the way that they scientifically explain it is that there are neutrinos constantly moving through. So neutrinos are like a subatomic particle.
Yeah.
Again, kind of need to, I think as I explore this quantum physics realm, I gotta brush up myself on my own quantum physics knowledge for the sake of how I'm applying it to astrology, and just for the sake of my own scientific knowledge of it. Neutrinos, there's particles that are constantly moving through space. So every single point is unique, right? And so there's something about the moment of birth, that as soon as you're born, the neutrinos that are moving through you. And that's also a little bit kind of where that idea came from this post that I made last week about quantum physics and astrology, in the sense that as soon as you're born, you are in a way quantum entangled with the position of everything around you. And I think that in a sense, that's what astrology says, or such that as you're moving with everything around you. And so the way that human design explains it is that when you're born, you have all of these neutrinos that are like moving through your body, and so those neutrinos kind of just become, that's kind of what sets your life path. And so it's very interesting. I won't get into all the details, but that was something that I got into recently, human design, and kind of just how, and yeah, and so that's why I kept thinking about the circle, and I was like, okay, there's some, every constellation, you know all of these astrological charts, all the human design charts, they all just boil down to this circle, and I'm like, there's some significance to this. And so that must mean that, every constellation emits some unique frequency that kind of cascades down. And it all just boils down to whatever is in the center point of it. So it's all just a relative experience that's kind of cascading down to the center of this observer's circle from wherever you're experiencing it,
Mm-hmm.
is my
No,
thoughts.
no, that's real. Yeah, no, I agree with that. There are a lot of different um, um, depictions with that circle in it, and I know that the circle, the 360 degrees, the infinite is important.
Mm-hmm.
Is important. I'm sorry, someone's yelling outside my door.
No,
Okay, so um, do you think that people can be able to teleport at some point in time, like with technology, and then maybe without technology? And because the reason I ask that is because if we understood how to vibrate our atoms at a certain frequency, like say this board, if I could vibrate my atoms at a certain frequency, I can go phase through the board. So, do you think you using quantum entanglement, we can like figure out how to feel that energy and just teleport to the next place? You know what I mean?
yeah, I think there totally is. I think there's a lot to do with, so yeah, and that's where I think like the whole idea of quantum entanglement is so interesting, because at the baseline, it's saying that that it's possible that the particles that are so far away from each other know about each other. And so it's saying, how do these two separate entities, or separate particles, know about each other? Like, there's some there's some way that information can be exchanged that bypasses distance, and that I don't even know what else it bypasses. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Now I couldn't even tell you kind of how that information is exchanged. And I think that, following that idea, I think teleportation is definitely possible. The one thing though, I do believe that we are limited in certain ways by the physical third dimension, because I think that the third dimension specifically is very dense. And so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it's not entirely possible for our physical carbon based bodies as we know them to teleport. I think that there are limitations that are imposed by this third dimension. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think that, kind of just following that idea that there's some way that information can be exchanged would, kind of go along those same lines, but also then that kind of reminds me of that gets me into the topic of like portals and kind of bending space and time, and teleporting in that way or traveling extremely large distances. And I think that that's the way that these UFOs that are in our area are able to even kind of exist around us. So I didn't necessarily believe that UFOs until a few years ago. Like, I wasn't 100% sure about UFOs and if they were really around us and everything. But what I would always say is that if there are UFOs like in our atmosphere, if people have actually seen UFOs, actually had alien abductions, if that is a thing, then these aliens have found some way to bend space and time. They're not, the way that professional astronomers, we think that the fastest speed you can travel is the speed of light. And so, for reference, the closest star to us, Alpha Centauri, is 4 light years away. These aliens aren't getting in their spaceship and waiting 4 years to just go from star to star and like, oh, just waiting for time to pass. So like, I always knew that if they were around us, they have figured out a way to bend space and time, and they're doing things that are way beyond our understanding. And so that's kind of and then I started, opening up my ideas a lot more in the last few years. And now I'm like, oh yeah, first off, they're definitely around us. You can access them with your mind. You can telepathically communicate with them. And they can exist in physicality in our environment, but I think that they have kind of figured out ways to bend space and time to through making specific use of portals.
That's real. Um, um, so would you say that that okay, so you were saying that in this 3D world, with our 3D bodies, the carbon-based bodies, that we're limited. Do you think that at some point, because I don't think that we are this body, I think that we're more than a body. So if we're more than a body, do you think at some point the body will be null and void, meaning we won't need the body to function? And then maybe at that point, do you think that we'll be able to just teleport? Does that make sense?
I think that we already can teleport with our astral bodies. So I think,
Right.
right. So it's like in this incarnation, our physical body is important for whatever, however it's serving us here. But I think, yeah, I think there's different levels to the kinds of bodies that you have. There's your physical body, there's your etheric body. So in a way, astral projection, astral traveling, people that are familiar with that concept are probably on board with these things that I'm saying. That you can astral, you can project your, that fragment of your soul somewhere else. In that sense, but yeah, I definitely, I agree that we're more than physical bodies, obviously. But as far as physically teleporting, I'm not sure. I feel like there are definitely some secret like experiment. There's a lot of experiments that are under
Yeah.
wraps.
Positive.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's experiments that are going on, and I think there was some kind of teleportation experiment. I feel like it maybe went wrong. I don't know. I feel like I was into looking up more of these things like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's being looked into, but I'm not 100% sure. But as far as the astral, yeah, that's a whole other realm.
Yeah. So I was thinking, that this world, this 3D world, is an illusion because atoms are what, 90%, 99% air,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And so if it's that much air, so in the astral world, would you consider the astral world to be the real world? And then if it's considered the real world, do you think that we all go to the same astral world when we sleep or when we go into the other side? Do you think it's the same one for everybody, or do you think it's like different
You know,
uh
I
phases
think
of light?
I think there is some shared. I think there is some realm that is shared between everyone if we're in the same universe. Whether or not we're all, it's so crazy. I mean, these thoughts are just so crazy because it's like you can go so many different directions. But I do believe that there is a shared realm between everyone that kind of exists if we are actually kind of all connected in some way. I think that it is shared, but I think that I think that uh, in this realm, the 3D realm, it's real, but it's not. I think it's I've had this thought before of how like um you can kind of just in the sense that sometimes people say, once you cross over, once you pass away, you kind of are able to like look back at your life and look back at your choices and kind of review your life. And I've thought in a sense of it's a little bit analogous to how you can do the same exact thing in this life with your experiences. Think back to like 5 years ago, and it's like you can think back to like some 4-year phase of your life, and from your perspective here looking back, it's like you can understand that that was 4 years, but you can think about it in any flash of time that you want to, and it's like you can apply that as high up as you can possibly go. So just in the sense that you can think back on a phase of your life and you can fully understand, yeah, I experienced that time as a 5-year chapter of my life, and I experienced all these highs and lows. um, and you can understand it from that perspective, but you can also think about it in the blink of an eye. I think it's like that, and that can be applied to our entire life, and then maybe expand that above and beyond, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
No, no, it does. Yeah, um, it does make sense, and I would really appreciate that answer because it's a lot to think about, but it's not a lot to think about at the same time. It's such a
Yeah,
it's such an interesting
I know.
concept, you know. And I think about this a little more deeply now because when my grandma passed, it's like it wasn't. This might sound bad, but I had to say it anyway. It's still the truth. It didn't hurt a lot,
Hmm.
you know. And I feel like the reason it didn't hurt a lot is because I know she's not gone. Like the energy is still there, right?
I just had the lights flicker in my room, so just
Oh,
say, what
okay.
sounds like she's making an appearance.
No, yeah, no, for real. But yeah, it's so interesting because it's just like a lot of a lot a lot has just been hidden, um,
Hmm.
and it's just not in the public eye.
Yeah,
And the only way that you'll really find it is if you look for something outside of what is given.
right.
It's not really there, even though it's there. It's like because like in electrical engineering, almost everything about spirituality was taught to me. Like the main the bulk of it, the part about electromagnetic frequencies and what a frequency is, what an amplitude is, what vibrations are. I
Yeah,
learned all that, but they didn't tell me that was a different subject matter altogether.
right.
They just taught me a whole bunch of theories.
Hmm.
Um, it's such an interesting concept. What do you think about school? Do you think this has nothing really to do with the topic that we're talking about? I mean, a little bit, but not really. Like, what do you think about school in general? Do you think school is something necessary, or do you think that it's a tool?
um
Or that makes sense?
yeah, I mean, I've definitely had a lot of thoughts on this recently, because I feel like I have just a huge internal battle that's been going on in me for the last few years, really kind of expanding my knowledge beyond this, and at the same time, in a way, being limited by school and by these teachings that don't encompass mind, body, spirit, that don't incorporate any other kinds of explanations. But it's, you know, called, it's not like it's already written out for us. It's not really explained yet. But I think that everyone has their own internal, you know, curiosity, either like ticking time bomb or you know, sphere of a sphere of what they care about. And so it's, for me, it's like I've always been like, my perspective has always been just the universe since I was like 14 or 15. And but it's, you know, not everyone's like that. And some people care about what's on earth. Some people only care about what's in their city or what's in their, you know, country or whatever, or care about these internal structures and systems and politics and government. And so, you know, I think that um, I think that even with school, like if you're interested, if you have these broader interests, um, they'll catch up to you no matter what. And I don't think that school
Mm.
can, you know, I don't think that school can necessarily hold you back from finding the answers that you want to. And I've learned that so firsthand by, you know, I have all these people in my life. Like, for example, I'm not sure if my cousin is still in here, but I saw him in there, Keith. Shout out. I don't know if he's still in here. But you know, I have these people in my life who have, you can tell that there's people that just have this spark within them, that they're like, oh, that they're like on the same wavelength, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, I need to know all the secrets of the universe, you know. And they might have gone through a totally different life path and school path, and they're doing a totally different major or whatever. But there's some people that it's that spark of curiosity is just like in them, and they just want to talk about it, or they have all these ideas of their own. And so it's been fun for me kind of along the way to, you know, meet people that are doing something else completely different, but they're like, oh my God, I know. And they're just totally on that same wavelength, and they have that curiosity, and they're thinking about the universe. And there's some people that are completely not, and that's fine too. And, you know, like you're just at your point. But so for that reason, I feel like it doesn't necessarily matter, like those people that are really interested, and have these grander curiosities, and know that school isn't teaching them everything, that, or that know that there's something more, that know that there's something else that school isn't teaching them. They're going to go find the answers on their own. And those people have. And, you know, and those people, like, for example, like my cousin or other people, like, you know, they're reading the books, or they're, you know, they're reading like Neil deGrasse Tyson stuff or whatever, you know, they're trying to find the answers on their own, or they've found the spiritual path. And so I think that it can't really hold you back, even though it tries to, in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah, definitely for sure. Um, I didn't really have any more questions. Those are all the questions that I had.
All right, awesome.
Do you have anything else you would like to say about yourself, or are you doing anything that you want people to know about, or anything like that?
I mean, I guess not necessarily. I'm just like, you know, I've really just kind of started building this momentum in the last few weeks, kind of building up this page, and it's really awesome. Like, thank you so much for asking me to do this like little IG live and interview and
Hmm.
everything, because I really want to start getting more comfortable speaking about these things, and really leaning into my beliefs, and, you know, making some posts just off of my own intuition and everything, and not necessarily needing that validation of whether or not some idea is right. And I feel like I'm leaning into the value of kind of just explaining things in your own words. And I think that if you're explaining something in your own words, then there will always be someone on the receiving end that maybe they just needed you to explain it in your words for it to click for them. And I think that's really cool. So I'm kind of like leaning into that, and trying to find my own voice with all of this information, and getting more comfortable kind of posting my ideas and posting my downloads. So I would like to start making videos and stuff soon. So yeah, I guess, like, you know, if anyone if anyone's interested, obviously, give me a follow. I'm going to be trying to make some more interesting content, and I would just like to aim it towards people that, maybe have either never thought about this stuff, or I just think clearly we're in a time that people are starting to question things. People are starting to want to think differently about the world. And I think that I have a unique perspective to offer by studying, the stars and everything in school, and having this spiritual perspective, and basically just putting it together and combining that with my own spiritual downloads and intuition, and just my own way of presenting this information. And I hope that, yeah, it has something to offer people.
Am I right? I had another question that did pop up in my head. The sun, that they say the sun is getting hotter.
Oh.
Have you heard anything about that? Like these, maybe the sun's getting hotter, or we're getting closer to the sun, or maybe
Oh,
another sun is coming into the picture.
yeah.
Something like that.
I don't know about another sun, but so I think that part of maybe what I'll be talking about soon is, this ascension that we're going through. And I think that, some people are more familiar with this concept than others, but clearly something on the planet is changing. I think that it has to do with maybe astrological, there's an astrological significance to it. But at the same time, the frequency of the planet is raising. And there's some connection with these increase in solar flares. We're getting a lot of more electromagnetic radiation in the sun. There's something to do with the Earth is going through a magnetic pole flip.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So that's actually an area that I think, now that I've kind of started leaning into, building on these ideas and starting to trust myself a little bit more with that, I really want to start tapping into that more. And so I don't think that the sun is necessarily getting hotter, but there's something is going on such that, like, the sun is pulsing out a lot more of these solar flares. The frequency of the planet is raising, and it's corresponding to the base level consciousness of the humans on Earth is raising right now. We're going
Mhm.
through a slow increase, or an ascension. And I've heard some interesting things. I'm going to float this out there, that we're moving through some kind of photon belt, that there is different cycles of ascension and descension, that we're moving through some kind of photon belt. Other things I've heard have to do with,
A
like,
photon belt.
us, and the constellation of Pleiades, and that there's some kind of significance with some star Alcyon, which is one of the stars in Pleiades. So at this point, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that part of maybe what I'm going to be talking about in some times to come, or I would love to tap into that more and see what information I could get on that, would be how to explain, this increase in consciousness and increase in vibrational frequency that's going on in the planet. How to explain that astrophysically, just what's happening with these motions. There's a lot of unanswered questions. First off, we don't even understand why the outer layer of the sun, the coronosphere, is hotter than the surface of the sun. That's a big unanswered question in astronomy. There's a lot to do with magnetic fields we don't fully understand. So just kind of floating that out there. There's really a lot about the sun that you would, and I was even surprised to find this out, because, here I'm studying the whole grand universe, and I'm like, oh, my God, the solar system's boring. I'm like, we probably know everything about the sun already, don't we? But there's actually a lot that we really don't know about the sun, the magnetosphere, and how it interacts with the magnetosphere of the Earth, and why the sun goes through certain cycles. So I guess to kind of close out that whole rant is to say, there's some significant cycle, or there's some significant phase of a cycle that we're passing through right now, which
Mhm.
has to do with why things on Earth are so chaotic as they appear, and why the frequency is raising, and we're going through this grand ascension. And I would like to hopefully be able to explain that.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
And you know, I really like the fact that there are so many different ways to think about what is happening. And the reason I say that is because I don't think that it's possible to be perfect. I think that we can only strive to become perfect. I don't think that perfect
Right.
a thing that we can do.
Exactly.
And,
I think it's always
and
stay humble in your knowledge, and we're only here. You know, it's like we can't claim to know everything yet.
right. Um, and I think that, you know, the creator is not. I think with the creator being perfect, I feel like it looks for. How do I explain this? In the process of looking for perfection is perfection, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Um,
It's the process.
yeah, it's a process. Yeah, so I really enjoy that. You know, people we always ask questions. We always look for new ideas, new things, or even old things, because sometimes the old things are the things that we actually need in the moment.
Exactly.
You
And
know.
you know, you can't. We're not going to move forward unless we question all these ideas that are in existence. And any astronomer, any academic astronomer, would still tell you most of the things that are out there right now, they're still just theories. So
Hmm. Yeah, a
there's
lot of things are theories.
there's so much that is established as gospel that might not be as much gospel as you'd think,
Right.
uh, or just
No
things
facts.
we've been going off of. And so, you know, there's that to question, and then there's other things that you know, I think that as soon as as soon as I Google something and there's any kind of really any kind of like questioning of it, or it seems that seems like it's being thrown under like a category of some pseudoscience, I'm like, I'm on the right track.
Yeah. No,
I'm like,
for
all
real.
right, that's where to look. I'm like, now I know. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's where I focus on. So yeah, I'm kind of just trying to blow it all up.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate this conversation. I'm going to save
Yeah.
it live. I can send it to you through
Perfect. Yeah.
email or you know, however. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we end?
Nope. I think that's it. Thank you so
Okay,
much again.
wonderful. I
This is
thank you
so
so
fun.
much.
First
For,
live.
yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining. And if you have anybody else who you think will be interested in doing something like this, please let me know.
Yeah, totally.
Because you know, I definitely want to. I definitely love hearing people's opinions and theories and facts, especially when it's opposing. You know,
Yeah,
it's really
that,
wonderful.
definitely. That's
All
where
right,
it's at.
thank you so much. Thank you
Right.
so much for your time.
Thank
Hey,
you.
you have a good one. Be safe.
You too.